It's the second day of Lent and I've had to get up really early because I've got a flight to catch this morning to Auckland. I've got a few meetings I've got to go to out there today, and I'm doing my best not to make too much noise as I get ready because I don't want to wake the family up. In today's Gospel, Jesus gets to the bread and butter, the meat and potatoes, the heart of what it means to be a Christian. He reminds us when he tells us that if we want to be a follower of his, we have to take up our cross. That Christianity is not some sort of therapeutic and easy path. Jesus is not our motivational coach. He's not there to whisper sweet nothings in our ear. He has come to save us. And that saving process can be hard and difficult, which is why he calls us to take up our cross. Why does he do this though? This paradox, this call to self-sacrifice which lies at the heart of the gospel is actually profoundly important. You see, we are made in the image and likeness of God, but our God is not a solitary being. Our God is the Father who is engaged in an eternal act of self-giving love with the Son. The Son is the only one capable of receiving the fullness of the Father's love and returning the fullness of the Father's love. It can't be authentic love if it's not reciprocal, if it's not fully received and fully returned, and Jesus is the only one capable of fully receiving the Father's love and fully returning it. And the love between the Father and the Son is so profound that we give it a name. We call it the Holy Spirit. That's who our God is. Our God is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, an eternal communion of three divine persons engaged in an eternal act of self-giving love. So what that means is this: we are made for self-giving because we are made in the image and likeness of a God who is an eternal act of self-giving love. We cannot find ourselves without self-giving. We cannot flourish without self-giving. And the ultimate act of self-giving is the cross. It is the pinnacle of self-sacrificial love. And that's why Christ calls us to the cross today, to embrace the cross. It's not because he's a sadomasochist who wants to see us suffer needlessly. It is because he knows what is best for us. And what is best for us is what is sometimes referred to as John Paul II, as in Pope John Paul II's law of the gift. It was this idea that John Paul II talked a lot about, that we cannot truly find ourselves without making a self-gift of our life. And the more we give of ourselves, the more we truly find ourselves. It is a profoundly important paradox, and today Christ calls us to that paradox. And really, this gospel reading today reminds us that all of Lent is about preparing for that moment of the cross. All of Lent should be about focusing on drawing closer to that ultimate act of self-giving love where Christ willingly, despite the difficulties and suffering, embraces his cross and shows us that he doesn't just talk to us, he doesn't just ask us to do things that he would never do, but he leads by example. If we want to know authentic love, if we want to flourish, if we want to be authentic lovers of others, then we need to know how to embrace our cross, because it's only through embracing the cross that we know how to truly love. There's lots of different saints I could have quoted today for this episode, but the one that really stuck out to me was Saint Maximilian Kolbe, and he said this: "The cross is the school of love." What a profoundly beautiful statement to make. Without the cross, without embracing that call to self-sacrifice, we can never learn what it is to truly love. And Saint Maximilian Kolbe was someone who actually embodied this. During World War II, he was imprisoned at Auschwitz, and while he was there, he voluntarily stepped forward and gave his own life in place of another prisoner that the guards were planning to kill. He lived out what it is to be Christ on the cross, and he lived it out for another prisoner. What a profound example. Now, obviously most of us are not going to have such an opportunity or a challenge in our own lives. But in many ways, that call to live out the cross in lots and lots of small ways every single day, even when no one is going to write a book about us or record the deeds that we do like they have done for, say, Saint Maximilian Kolbe, in many ways that's probably even more challenging. But it is precisely in that place, and only in that place, where we learn how to love. And this Lent is all about reminding us again that the cross is the school of love.
We hope you enjoyed your flight with us today. From all the team, thank you for flying in New Zealand on the Star Alliance network. Take care, we look forward to seeing you again.